Welcome to the next in a series of blog posts that I'm creating to help educate our community members about the inner workings of our school district. In this one, we're going to go ahead and take a second look at our Veazie agreement. So we're calling this Veazie Agreement Review Part 2. By all means, this is not all encompassing, but as much as I've been able to get through so far, this is what I have to share. So as always, the link right below this video, please click on it. The document will come up. Follow along with the document. No need to look at me yet. We'll get to that at the end when we close. So first and foremost, we start off at the very beginning, as we always should. In full year 2013, there was no arrangement, so there was no activity. 13-14, the arrangement comes on board, and you'll see the right-hand side of this slide, and it shows the accounts that were set up to handle the Veazie arrangement. The interesting thing about this, you'll see the enterprise fund for Veazie, which you'd think the Veazie money would come into that they'd be handling, but no. It actually looks at, if you look at it closely, as if a small business has been set up within our district to handle the Veazie arrangement, which is very interesting. So let's take a look at how all this works. So if you look at the next slide, slide number 3, you're going to see full year of 14, and it's pretty straightforward except for I have a circle here. You'll see employee numbers 1230 and 1430. Fun game to play during this video is to watch these numbers flip and flop. When it comes to accounting, accuracy and consistency normally is what you look for, but apparently not here. When you look at the right side of the slide, you'll see I have a couple more circles, and here we have not because of the name of the employee, but because of the stipend and then the technology charges from Tyler Technologies. And when you look at slide number 4, you'll see why. We took over the business arrangement, but between January of 2015 and June of 2015, as shown here, we were paying Bangor payroll to do the payroll services for Veazie. And you'll see that in the next slide, you'll see the technology charge as well. But when you look at the circle I have in the right-hand side, once again, you'll see 1230 and 1430. But you do see 1230 that does look accurate because that number does match the stipend of our assistant superintendent. Now, once again, the agreement names our superintendent as the person who will be fulfilling this contract, so I still do not understand why these other folks are getting stipends, but we'll get to that a little bit later when we talk about total cost. So the next slide here, you'll see the Tyler Technologies, why we were charged. Looks like a payroll conversion, implementation, what have you. I'm not sure what was included in that, but it seems like we're paying Bangor payroll over $2,600 to do the payroll for 6 months. We're paying Tyler Technologies another $1,500 to do some payroll work and conversion. We're also paying a stipend to our payroll coordinator for $2,500. So seems rather expensive, but I'll let you kind of decide for yourself on that one. When you go to slide number 6, you will see that we do have circled here. That's just to show that there was a $2,500 stipend that was paid. And when you look over to the lower right-hand corner, you'll see the summary of salaries and total costs. They all look pretty well in line. You do see PR looks a little bit larger, but as we've talked about before, this apparently is a half position. This we'll highlight a little bit later. Nothing against the person, but when you look at how this is handled. So when you look at slide number 7, this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. So this is the full year 16. So this would include from July 1st of 2015 to June 30th of 2016. Now remember, our superintendent came back after being retired for the month of July and came back on August the 1st. Now, when he came back, everybody was under the impression, it even says, if you look at the arrows down below, that no longer eligible for a stipend. And it even says no more was paid from the Veazie contract. Which is very interesting. It also says that our assistant superintendent took over the superintendent duties for the month of August. It was actually the month of July, but like I said before, accuracy and consistency when you're talking about accounting and finances, apparently here they're a little bit overrated. Okay, so then you look at the right-hand side, you'll see full year 17, which hasn't quite completed yet. This is as of April 30th of 2017. But if you look at in the circle that goes this way, you'll see the 26,000 number, which draws a little bit of attention when you're talking about a stipend for a school, which is K through 8, and I think has about 160 students in it, right? Okay, so $26,000 to be the business clerk for that group. Well, let's look a little bit more closely at this. Well, when you look at the breakdown of 2015 and 16 stipends, once again, you can see 1230 and 1430 are kind of playing the musical chairs. When you look at 13-14, you'll see that they're both getting a pay on each pay period. The 192, I believe it is, and the 500. You look over on the right-hand side for 15-16, and you'll see that there's a little bit of a gap, but starting in August, 1430 starts to receive a stipend again. The number changes, 39801. It's not 75% of 500. I'm not sure where the number comes from, but it is a number, and it is officially here as you're looking at the Veazie accounts accounting. Now, when you look at the full year, you can see this continues all the way through June of 2016. Now, you'd think our treasurer, who is responsible for making sure our funds are appropriately handled, would notice that there was a check being cut to our superintendent, since they're the same person, but apparently that was just something that was not recognized. Now, if you look over on the right, it's very interesting. You see employee number 1230 starts getting 2 retirement contributions. They're different amounts, but 2 retirement contributions per pay period, which is interesting because when you look at the pay periods, they receive 1 stipend payment. Once again, I'm not sure what that means. I don't know why that would happen, but maybe in the public financing or in the small business of which have been set up within our district, that is how we do things. So just to show you that this continues, this accounting is consistent throughout the year. When you look at the next slide over on the left, and then when you look over on the right, I've circled this one. This is interesting because remember I talked about the stipend benefits. That was my new favorite. Okay, so when you look at the stipend benefits under the business office, 10,000 and change seems like a really big number. Well, let's look at where that comes from. So you'll see here, before we get to that, I do want to show you that we do have some tight accounting because in July of 2016, somebody, I don't know what would have prompted them to look into this, but somebody realized that our superintendent was getting a paycheck from here, or it looked like they were getting paid. I'm not really sure what happened here, but you can see there's some reversals, so no longer are we going to be doing that. Okay, perfect. All right, glad we got that taken care of. And you can see under stipend benefits as well, workers' comp and unemployment, which is what most of that stipend benefit is actually being reversed as well. So now we look down here and we can see now number 1230, now they don't have a stipend of $6,334.50, but they were paid a salary of $6,334.50. I'm not really sure why, but we'll look at that in a moment when we play our matching game. And look at over on the right, $9,154.13. These are the stipend benefits for employee 2583. What could make that number so big? Well, let's take a look at we'll see that in a couple slides down. But what you're going to look at is, oh, actually, no, I'm sorry, that's 1430. So that's actually the salary of 9154. I get a little ahead of myself there when it comes to the benefits. Now, when you look at this one, the next slide on the left will show you full year 17. And I have a big circle. Well, I have the circle around the moving numbers again. You get 1430 and 1230. But then you'll see a note here that talks about the $855.02 that we paid because of a late receipt of an invoice. Very, very interesting. Okay, over the right hand side I include this one because you'll notice in the top of when we do some of these things, we'll see general, you see CT deposit, sometimes it's debit, some years they're only credits. It's kind of interesting how that kind of changes, but maybe someone looking at it can kind of make sense out of that. Well, 855 is interesting because apparently this isn't the only time we've done it. When you go to the next slide, you'll see back in 2015, apparently we received a late invoice on a loan on Maine Municipal Bond Bank. And then we had $69.01 that we paid, and you can see the warrant there. Beauty part about this one, remember I talked about we seem to have a problem with approving things. So you'll see that there is no signature on the approval for this one or date. You will see that this process was revised in way back in 2000. So apparently we've been using the process since 2000. A few things have changed since the tech bubble, but I don't know about you, but the way I work is a little bit different since back then. But why would you want to become more efficient? You wouldn't, right? A lot of this probably wouldn't be happening. And then when you look at the warrant, look at it. There's only 2 signatures. You can see a big blank around the second finance committee signature, which would make the full 3, which is supposed to be there before the check goes out. Once again, you think our treasurer might notice that, but apparently we have a little bit of an opportunity. It looks plain and simple to me, but hey. And then you'll see that we have the receipt of it over here. So we're making our stipend. We are creating a paper receipt for this payment. So then we go down here and we'll see that we have a new person added in 2017, employee 2127. So they're getting a stipend now. And then, oh, why is our stipend benefit so big? Well, if you look at the 797975, these are health insurance premium payments. So apparently when you work on the Veazie contract, your health insurance, if we don't really want it to show in our cost center, we can just shift it somewhere. I don't remember approving that as a board member. I don't remember seeing this happen, but it gets a little bit more interesting as we move forward. So, when you look at the next one, you'll see, okay, there's the PR and matches of 79.79. It's a pretty big number, which brings us to the grand total of 23,624 so far in 2017. Remember, this hasn't ended yet. Okay, now I do want to give credit where it's due. Remember last time I did say we had an incorrect invoice. It does look like they did go back and correct that. So we did get the 2,500, so appreciate it. Now we're going to look at some of the real professionalism that happens in our district. And wait till you see how much this cost us. On the left, you're going to see this is a mileage reimbursement from our superintendent. Okay, lined paper. It's great. Okay. And then you're going to see, and this is from 2013, but you'll see that it continues. And then over on the right, you'll see that our assistant superintendent, and of course this one is not approved, but superintendent's was paid. And then when you look at, we'll look at our assistant superintendent a little bit later because the mileage reimbursement gets even more interesting. So in this next slide, and you'll see I see slide 42. This is a matching game, I call it. So this is 2015-16. You remember on one of the previous videos, I was really intrigued about this one. Well, look at how these match up. So you got our superintendent who doesn't get a salary from Veazie, who actually has $9,154.13. Smart not to make retirement contributions. That might raise a red flag, like this red sweater. Doesn't match. Okay, so then you look at our assistant superintendent, $633,450. Doesn't match. Then you look at MM. Doesn't match. In poor Gloria is even left off the summary. Well, let's slide her back in there. But she does match. And then you look at the total 43,357 doesn't match. Of course, nobody mentioned the 10,657 in stipend benefits, which premiums from our health insurance. Which is good. So when you look at it, everything that we have pretty much on the right-hand side that was presented to the Finance Committee, official committee of the board, did not match the information that these folks already had. Interesting. Where did these numbers come from? Are we just making it up? I don't know. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Once again, I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm just trying to make sense of it all. All right. So here we go. See a circle on the left. That does show that MM did get a stipend of over $1,000. So that's good. And then over on the right, you'll see a couple of the other stipends that were there as well. You can match up the employee numbers if you like. And then once again, we do see on slide 22, you're going to see the healthcare premiums being paid. That's quite a nugget there for the total benefit stipend of over $9,400. And over on the right, you will see, yes, we're sorry that you get left off. Employee number 2080 was here. Apparently, we just weren't able to put that into the summary. Got missed there a little bit. I'm not sure. Once again with accounting, why would you want to include all the numbers? All right, so here we go. This shows the healthcare premiums being paid on a monthly basis. Perfect. And then you look at the overall central office fiscal. That's a pretty big number considering how much we're getting for revenue. Then you look over the right-hand side once again, and you will see we still are missing people. That's interesting. That's for year 16. Now, let's get into how this whole process works. So, our district accountant creates the invoices, and those invoices are, well, we handle the business stuff, so I hope we're not mailing these, but we may. So see the invoice date of September 30th, then over on the right-hand side, you can see where the warrant was created from the Veazie School Department. That was created, invoice at 9:30, created on the date of 10/23/15. And then we receive a check written on an account from Bangor Savings Bank, signed by Mr. Leonard. On the 23rd, I hope we didn't mail this, but look at the receipt date, 10/26/15. So picture this. So we have the district accountant in the office makes an invoice, then walks that over to the business clerk who creates the warrant, who then, I'm not sure who creates the check, but the check is then created. And then that check goes to the assistant superintendent's assistant, who then writes a receipt that they have received the check that they have created. I'm not sure. Maybe the way it was explained to me when I was on the board was different, but that just seems like a lot of, some of us have automated our systems. We use digital, we use computers, but this is a lot of walking. So then we look at this. Now let's look at the mileage thing. Here's something I only show these, not because of the people that are on them, but because I found it interesting. When you're a part of the business office and you travel for Veazie, you get 55.5 cents a mile. Now, let's look at our assistant superintendent. Once again, we have two invoices here. We have reimbursements, and once again, neither one of them are signed. Now, the one on the right, you'll see $125.94. We'll show how that's paid, but I got to show you something first. Heck, if nobody else will sign them, look, I'll just sign my own. Match the signatures is what you've seen previously. And notice there's no year on the dates, it's just a signed form. And of course, all of these get paid. Now, look at the left, that's the 124. Now, if you look at the right, you're going to see something interesting as well. This is a Veazie reimbursement, but it also says reimbursed for Leadership Summit. Now, this was one of my bones of contention I never got an answer for. When standing up and presenting this to the board after getting back, it was quite an honor. I was invited to the summit. Total cost of the district $233, and then we reimbursed at $233. I don't know who approved the trip, but the interesting thing was I had signed a warrant back in the spring, and I had asked a number of people about why in the world we're paying $2,500 for a membership into the District Administrative Leadership Institute when it's not part of the contract. We only have 2 professional organizations we're contractually obligated for. $2,500 when we're telling our students we can't buy books, we're telling our teachers we can't buy supplies, we're telling our principals we can't help them out, but we can pay $2,500 so someone can take a trip and then represent as a total cost of $233 to the district. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but you just kind of think about it on your own. So now, here we go. So now we're going to look how this whole process works. So here we have the mileage reimbursement form filled out by our superintendent. Then he hands it off to his assistant, who then hands it off to, and converts it into Word, who then hands it off to the district accountant, who creates the actual disbursement voucher, who then goes, has the assistant superintendent sign off on the voucher to approve it. It then goes to the business clerk, so the business clerk can go ahead and make the warrant. And then the accountant goes ahead and makes the invoice to this Veazie school system, and then that goes over to the business clerk who makes the warrant, and then there's a check created, and then the check is received and a receipt is written. Very efficient. Remember, this is all happening in one building from what I understand. Okay, so now look at this. This is where it gets interesting too. So you have the Veazie School Department right here. We have the bill. This is the old type of invoice, I guess. And you can see that we have the mileage over here for $91.52. And remember, this is for through March of 2016. The interesting thing about this is if you go back up to the one that ended December 31st, 2015, $91.52 gas mileage reimbursements there as well. I could only find one gas reimbursement receipt, but hey. Now, here's where it gets interesting too. Lo and behold, not only are we getting these memberships, but look who has the copay and deductible benefit. Now, we'd want to make sure that since there is a spouse that works in the district, that we are not part of their insurance. And you're going to see in the contract later where we would pay 55% of single. And we'll look at that a little bit later, but I just thought this was kind of interesting. Remember, I couldn't get the details around who gets that. So now let's look at the contracts. So on the left, you'll see a contract, a memorandum, supplementation for Veazie School Department, school year, superintendent services. Now this is signed for RSU 22 by assistant superintendent, signed for Veazie by their superintendent, who apparently on this particular day wasn't our superintendent. Well, that's complicated. So look over to the right. Remember that contract everybody talked about that said, oh, the reason we pay all these things for Veazie is because it's contractually obligated. It's in the contract. It's listed in the contract. You must have to read between the lines. The only contract I could find is this one. So it talks about from January 2015 through June 30th, 2017. Talks about the numbers. I don't know. Maybe you can see something between the lines. Look at it real close. Look at the signature. Oh, now we don't really need 2 signatures anymore. We just got 1 for Veazie and for our superintendent. The biggest benefactors of this whole arrangement, apparently they don't need anybody else. And then this is consistent as we look at a technology services agreement. Only one person has to sign a contract. I'm not a contract attorney, but as far as I know, usually you need 2. And then the terms outlined to the right. So here's something you won't get from RSU 22, but if you go to Veazie, you can get it. Apparently, they'll tell you that all they do is they just send these checks, $235,000 and change once a month to RSU 22. RSU 22 handles all their business and finances, everything like that. The principal doesn't. I mean, remember, this is a little school. So they get sent here. Now, look at this. This is a Machias Savings Bank. That signature doesn't match the ones that we have on the Bangor Savings Banks one. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be the same one, same person, what have you. And then it's deposited into a Cantata Trust branch here in Hamden. I'm not sure if that's where Veazie keeps their account or what have you. But remember, the checks that we see, the $21,000, $25,000, whatever, are actually on a Bangor Savings account with a different looking signature than that. I'm not sure. It's maybe just a rubber stamp one. So now let's look a little bit more closely at our superintendent. Here are the last 2 contracts that were in place before the retire rehire. You can see the numbers. Now, if you look over to the right, you're going to see the 148,028 and 131 added to $161,000. From what I understood, and if you take, remember, your 3rd grade proficiency and you take out your calculator, multiply that by the 0.75 of which you're eligible to earn, from what I understand from all the research I did and actually being told from the superintendent, look back at the June 23rd meeting. This is getting better because remember the $12,000 offset? That was right after the last stipend check was written for the 39801 or whatever. So that would be 120,771. So now you look at the contract here, and you'll see this is the one where we extended it, but you look at it, it's 124,393. Interesting. Maybe there's something else in there. I'm not sure about the math, but it kind of caught my attention. Now here's the great part. 113,387 for 11 months worth of work. If you go down 2 slides, you are going to see on number 40, actually before we go to that, so just let that sit. 113 for 11 months worth of work. Per slide 19, or which I actually turned into 20 as I updated this, you will see under the column of BCBS net a number just under $8,000 for said employee 2583, of which apparently just picked up health insurance on July 1st of 2015. Now you can see that this was printed in April of 2015. Why is she showing health insurance here if she didn't actually have it? I don't know. Okay. Once again, with accounting, numbers don't need to be consistent really apparently here. And why would you want them to be? Now let's look at our superintendent. Remember the 113? Well, if you look at this one, and this is the projected full year 2016 that they were putting in the budget, and you'll see a couple things that are interesting. One, look at the number 117. You add up a couple of the numbers, you get a total salary of 119. That seems a little bit high than the 113, but I don't know who's counting. I mean, with 6,000 amongst friends, aren't we all friends? And then you also see in red adjustment due to PL retire. I'm not positive what PL is, but I think I know what it is. So about just under $9,000 put under BCBS, right? So if you look at the previous document, which I don't have here, I didn't want to share all the teacher information. You'll see that we were paying in excess of $20,000 for PLs in health insurance. Probably want to make sure that RL wasn't on PL's health insurance because 20 grand sounds like a lot for a single insurance policy. But once again, that's not me. That would be somebody else. Interesting. So what's this all cost us? So let's look at this slide. In the second to last slide, you'll see I've listed in the first column. This is the total cost, salaries, retirement, health insurance, what have you, for these folks that are involved in this process in the Veazie contract. Administrative assistant for a superintendent costs us 66 grand a year, and the administrative assistant for the assistant superintendent is 59 grand a year, and apparently when they call out sick, we get subs. So in total, over $127,000 a year total cost to have assistants for our superintendent and our assistant superintendent. And look at the great work that's happening. Nothing against the people in the positions, but just look at the process. Business office, you got PR, and this is half position, 29. You got LS at 68, and then you get AL at 93 for a total for these three folks, 2.5 positions, 190,000 and change. And then you look at our superintendent, 138,550, because that's a prorated amount. Normally it'd be 151, 145. And then you have our assistant superintendent. Remember, this is full year 16 numbers, not this year numbers. So you add up a full year for him at 151. Our assistant at 149, and you get $300,000. Total cost of these 8 people, $618,000 at 7.5 people. Look at the Veazie statements get added in, and you get a total cost of $58,000. So overall, when you look at the big number, these 8 folks cost our district $676,433. And look at the quality of work we're getting. I'll let you decide. Now, people have asked me what's next. So here we go. The last slide. If you want to look at me or if you want to keep looking at the slide, here's what we need to do. First and foremost, we need to organize as a citizen initiative. So we need volunteers that are going to be willing to organize, collect signatures, etc. 2, large audience presentation. I've been approached by a number of people since these vlogs went out. I'm very amazed. I've shared these with just a couple folks, but a lot of people apparently are seeing them. So I'd be more than happy to. It goes back to bullet number 1. If people are willing to organize and help out, maybe there we can do some more organizing, but I'd be more than happy to walk through all this stuff and continue from there. 2 or 3, obtain our own independent legal counsel, attorney, review financials, procedures, contracts, etc. This would allow us to get a view into what is really happening, the risk to our district, proposals for remediation as well for what we need to do going forward. Let's get some experts in here that are independent, working for us, not working for the administration. There'd be a cost here, so we'd also be looking for the folks that would be willing to chip in. So that goes back to bullet number 1 again, but I have no one in this community. I'm sure there are a number of folks that might chip in a couple dollars to help out with that. Then we also need to, at the same time, as a citizen initiative, petition the Maine State Auditor to come in and take a look, the Department of Education, the Governor's Office, and we'd also possibly the District Attorney, depending on what was found as we are continuing on our work here, but we'll hold that to a little bit later. Work with our town managers and our counselors. They are very concerned. They're very interested in this. I've worked with our Hamden ones for quite a while. We have the same goal. Let's work together. There's a budget open forum meeting, I believe it's Tuesday, June 6th. Show up. Support your students. Make sure the board members know that their budget is not going to pass until two things happen. One, they can prove they've gained control over district finances, and two, a transparent, student-focused budget is developed and presented. Let our voices be heard. Lastly, attempt to work with our school board members. I truly believe that they're good people. For the most part, the majority, except for a few, are doing the best they can with the information they've been given. Now, you've seen from the information I'm giving you, the board does not get the best information. They get the information that people want them to have. I don't know why that is, who makes that decision, but you know the experience that I had. It works on a majority rules. So there's 1,000 points, you need 500 points to influence. Here's the breakdown. There's 14 members, 7 Hamden, 4 Winterport, 2 Newburgh, and 1 Frankfurt. It's time to take our schools back. Let's look at what happened here. Okay, we have a group of which is not abiding by our policies. They're not abiding by the direction of our community. You look at the quality of work that we've had. You look at what I just reviewed now. Most organizations have what they call a whistleblower clause. It provides people who escalate potential concerns from retaliation. I don't know if I qualify or not, but once again, remember what happened as I started to dig into this, and I didn't want to, but I volunteered to because of my background and took over the chair of the Finance Committee. Start elevating concerns, immediate retaliation. The retaliation doesn't work. You get your one-off meetings with intimidation. I actually started earlier. So, do you know who I am? Yeah, I know who you are. Okay? Retaliation. Then you move forward and you see that we then go, that didn't work, so let's see if we can undermine their authority and prevent them from doing their job. That doesn't work, so let's at a formal board meeting, let's humiliate them by turning to somebody else completely different as the chair, which is going to undercut the HRA presentation. If that doesn't work, then we're going to start doing these one-off meetings to the side, and we're going to end up just all out threatening official action. Once again, I still don't know what that means, but it sounds kind of legal, which is the point at which I get legal counsel, of which led to everything else falling into place. Members of our community, it's time to take our schools back. I really thank you for watching this, looking at the documents. It's a little bit long. Hopefully it was worthwhile. June 6th is a big day, but together as a community, I am convinced we can do the right thing for our students, take our schools back, provide them the education that we are not only legally accountable for, but morally owe it to them. Thanks for watching.